In addition to the speed factor that I mentioned earlier in the show, collaboration's another element that industry always asks government for more of in contracting. Lisa Lax is Vice President of the Contracts and Acquisition Management Office at GDIT. She says COVID was the beginning of a sea change in the way industry and government collaborate on acquisition.
I think we have a challenge since COVID. When we did COVID, all the acquisition personnel went home, and we got Teams and we got Zoom. And I think we've lost that interpersonal connection. I think to have and resolve the difficulties and the challenges that we now have in acquisition, face-to-face communication is needed. And I don't think we do that anymore. We do have industry days, but I think with the concern about giving people competitive advantages and that swinging, or things being said will make you OCI'd out, I think people aren't talking. And I'm concerned about that, because with us needing to have cyber hygiene and AI coming out, and the way that people are using AI to write proposals, we need to do business differently. Yeah. We need to have conversations. And no matter how good you are at Zoom, you and I can't talk at the same time, right? You talk over each other, or you've got to do things ahead of time. And so I really think the days of when you used to be able to get on someone's calendar and just talk, we don't do that anymore.
What brings that back? What revives that in such a way that it restores the effectiveness that it sounds like you think is missing?
I think CrowdStrike is a perfect example, right? We are depending on third-party software that the primes have no choice to but use. And you're asking the prime to take the risk on these third-party software. And you've been in the business a long time. You're not going to get guarantees. They're not going to take the liabilities or the warranties. I think we really need to get together as an industry with government and have a hard conversation with, given that we are delivering things through this automated technology world, how do we do acquisition differently, right? Like, do you remember, you and I have been in this in a long time, do you remember when we used to do like improvement of the acquisition when Al Gore was here? It took a lot of meetings with a lot of open conversation, and it was not perfect, but we had improvements. And I think it's time to say there's so much dynamics in the product we deliver that we need to have those conversations and not be afraid that you're not going to be able to compete, or you're going to say something that's going to be shared with anyone. Yeah. You know, we need to.
Who would you like to see drive that on the government side, and who would you like to see drive that on the industry side? What are the right organizations or people to initiate that dialogue, do you think?
We've learned that it doesn't happen unless you have a champion. So we need a champion on the acquisition side at DoD and champions on the acquisition side within the industry. Not the industry CEOs who are awesome, but they don't understand the acquisition process. So we really need to have industry leaders in acquisition on the government and industry leaders who are empowered to make decisions.
Is this a big enough problem, do you think, that industry, some of the big industry companies will be able to put aside that competitive skepticism they have of each other regarding collaboration and say, yeah, maybe we don't do this all the time, but this is big enough that we should work together and collaborate together to try to solve it?
I think absolutely, because look at the new laws that are being tried to pass on cyber, right? We know we need to keep the American infrastructure safe, right, in cyber. And what's happening is we are writing clauses that put all of the obligations on the prime. It's no longer going to be cost effective, right? The cost of a spillage or a hacker that was innocent could cost a company its entire bottom line. So I really think we need to have a conversation given AI and cyber, because I think are the big things, or even like the war in Ukraine. How do we work together to properly allocate the risk, but still have a way of purchasing it that's effective?
Is that loss of interpersonal contact, do you think, the biggest challenge that the government industry equation faces right now, Lisa?
No, I think I think the biggest challenge we have, and I think industry has it somewhat, but I think the government is having a problem with workforce experience. I myself started with the government. I thank them every day. They gave me the best training I ever had. But then I went to industry who loved me because I had all the FAR and DFAR. Right? FAR and DFAR and all the other regulations are complex. And then you have an entire cottage industry with legal helping us how to interpret it. When we get the younger workforce, they understand the black and white and the four squares. But I feel like with the individuals who are my age, who are all now retiring, right? And we've got all these nice, like great, brilliant kids coming out of college, but understanding the possibility or the art of possible under the regulations is a lost art.
We have about 30 seconds left. I think the most encouraging thing that you've said is that it sounds like there are kids coming out of college who want to do this at least as part of their career.
Absolutely. And I would say, you know what? Stay with the government. They give you a long-term career. They have work-life balance. I mean, it's awesome. But you need to understand that you just can't follow the, industry RFP analysis. You need to be creative and talk to them and say, how's the right way to buy this? Like when AWS first came on, seat management was like shocking, right? But it took some really creative people that says, you know what, we're going to buy seat management.
Lisa Lax of GDIT.